All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I hope you are doing well. We missed you guys last week. So, welcome to Geopolitics in Conflict Live. So, we are so excited to be here, guys. Ross had to be out of town last week, so we couldn't do it. There's some stuff to deal with. But anyway, last week was last week. Today is this week. So, we are so excited to be here. And we got so much to talk about in today's live, Ross. So we're gonna cover a
very
lot of
interesting,
ground.
very exciting,
Yeah,
and important information for virtually everyone on the planet.
exactly. So, well, first, what is the account? Where are we in the account right now so far?
Well,
I think
we're a little bit short of the 70 million subscribers.
Yeah, the last time I checked this morning, we were about 69,900,041. So we get in there.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
Help us out if you
help us out if you didn't subscribe. You're
Please
right.
subscribe.
Yeah. But on the other hand, on a serious note, guys, literally, we noticed a lot of subscriptions came up recently.
Oh yeah.
So we thank you for those who probably just visited the channel for the first time and they like the content. So, but for our viewers who've been with us since the beginning, and there are some names, Ross, that I recognize from the beginning when we started about a year ago. They're still with us. So we want you to guys know it means a lot to us and we don't take it for granted. So, and to our Patreon members, we thank you for your continued support. And for you, of course, if you like our videos, consider joining our Patreon membership. So before we start, Ross, there's some housekeeping things I like to address and also share with our viewers. Then we'll launch into whatever we need to talk about. Well, first of all, we wanted to let you know we had an interesting interview yesterday with one of the guests that you guys suggested. And we don't want to disclose the names,
Not yet.
We keep it a surprise for you. But there is also another one. We're gonna have an interview tomorrow. It's scheduled for tomorrow for somebody who is a global figure. You guys will know the moment we mention his name. Yes, it's here.
Yes.
Well-known guys. Really has some great insights. So we're going to have that. So for our guests, if you like us to have someone, please reach out to them. Maybe they don't know about our channel, and we'll be happy to consider that. So we have interviews already lined up for the upcoming week. And we're going to, by the way, those who've been asking about some of our guests like Daniel and so forth, we're reaching out and we're working out the schedule. So we're going to have them soon. So
we're delighted that so many of the people that you've requested are flattered first that you requested them, and second, they say, "Yeah, I'm in. Let's schedule it."
Exactly. So, second thing I want guys to give you an update on, it has to do with the website. So it's getting there. Elizabeth, our producer, by the way, is working on it, and thanks to her, that's where that website is, and we're doing the website. So that's what we're working on.
Right.
Because it has the membership, and the reason why it has a membership is because there are certain things we're going to be talking about in detail.
We're going to be a lot more open in the conversation, a lot more depth, and we don't have to worry much about censorship. We can tell you what we really think without anyone saying, "Oh, no, you can't talk about that."
Because you guys know how it is and you know how it works, and we don't want to lose you. And we don't want to be gone because we want to contribute to the conversation, and your presence means a lot for us for that. So that website is in the works. It's getting closer, and we'll keep you updated on it as we move forward. So the other thing has to do with our Patreon members. So if you are Patreon members, please make sure to join the Discord. Because we do have now a Discord. I do get on it sometimes. Elizabeth gets on it sometimes. Or Ross gets on it sometimes, just to see if there is any conversation there. We'll be happy to answer questions there, whatever. So consider just the Discord, joining the Discord. And the last thing I would tell you about some housekeeping stuff is, please make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. So we are on those two social media platforms. We do have a presence there, and I receive personally on my Twitter account a lot of follow-up on it. So make sure to follow us on those. So, and that's basically it. Anything else, Ross? We need to on housekeeping stuff.
No,
No, we covered everything.
before we jump to our really important topic today,
Yeah,
there's some other stories going on around the world that maybe you could comment on.
exactly. But before we do that, we need to extend our thanks to our producer, yeah, to Elizabeth. Yeah, because without her, we won't be here. So she's helping us with everything that goes with the channel. So kudos to her for all the work, and we truly, truly appreciate it. So,
Absolutely right.
yes, yeah, we do appreciate that a lot. So,
What do you think? Top stories of the week?
yeah, what do you guys think? How about we go with that? So
Okay.
let's do it.
Well, you know, President Biden and President Xi had a 90-minute phone call. What do you think of that?
Indeed, it was a 9-minute conversation a few days ago. You know what's interesting about that call? It was initiated by the U.S., not China. But here is the kicker in all this, that President Biden had a press conference yesterday and denied that President Xi did not turn down the meeting because the President Biden didn't ask him. Well, actually, he was someone who was familiar with the call and said, no, that's a lie. President Biden asked Xi for a meeting in the upcoming G20 summit in Italy, which is next month. And President Xi said, I think it's too early to meet face to face. Woo! Yeah.
You talk about a snub and a clear statement as to what China's feelings toward the United States are.
Well, actually, it makes more sense. I mean, why would you want to meet with me when you are insulting me, when you are talking harsh, when you are, doing whatever you're doing just to antagonize?
You know, in Alaska, the Biden administration clearly laid out its view on China.
Yeah.
Insult after insult after insult. No wonder the Chinese are upset.
Yeah, and they turned down so far, Western media saying no, that didn't happen. I checked 4 sources, by the way, Ross, 4 sources, and they all confirmed that indeed it was the request for the meeting, but President Xi turned it down as of now. So,
Wow. NK tested a new missile.
oh yeah, North Korea.
Yeah.
He tested the new missile. What's important about that, guys? It has nothing to do with the testing itself. Is that missile they just tested has 2 capabilities. One of them is it can be nuclear tipped.
Yeah.
And second is within a distance of 1,500 kilometers, which means what? Right in Japan. Yeah, it's not a laughing matter, but you can just see because Japan is acting sort of with the Quad and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And North Korea won't have it. So the missile they just tested, 1,500 kilometers within range to Japan. So I'll take it as a message to Japan.
And from my understanding is that missile is almost impossible to stop.
No, not for what they're doing. So the other concern with that is that it is nuclear tipped. So it can be nuclear tipped.
Another really important thing for us to consider is China's foreign minister, Wang Yi, visited Vietnam.
Oh, indeed. Last week, it was
Yeah.
a visit. That's very interesting given the dynamics that's taking place in the region.
Yeah.
So, and I could just see from what took place. Remember when we did the video about vice president visit to Singapore and Vietnam?
Yeah.
Well, before it, the Vietnamese met with the Chinese prior to meeting with the U.S. president. That tells you right there where the dynamics are. I don't think so. Vietnam's going to go against China. It's going to lean towards China because of economics.
With the trade.
Yeah, it's common sense.
That's the number 1 trade partner.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was very interesting. It's a diplomatic visit to cement the relationship between China and Vietnam.
Let's talk about the Canadian election next week because it has so many implications.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And by the way, guys, just for you to know, we're going to do an update on Meng Wanzhou's case because now the decision has been pushed till mid-October. So, they drag in this case, but next week, there are the elections in Canada. It will be interesting to see what the Canadians now is going to be voting for.
Yes.
Do they want Trudeau to stay in the office and be subservient to the U.S., or do they want another politician, somebody who can take a different route regarding this case of Huawei and Meng Wanzhou. So it would be interesting to see the outcome.
The news just keeps getting richer and richer, deeper and deeper. KSA may be buying Russian missiles.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia, and we did a video on that one. It pains me to see. And by the way, guys, one of you made a comment about the video we did, and that I got emotional on it. The truth is, I did indeed. I did get emotional on that because of the horrible, humanitarian catastrophe that is existing right now in Yemen at the hand of the Saudis and United Arab Emirates using American weapons, British weapons, some of the Germans and some of the French. Yes, but we are the main supporters of weapons for the Saudis. So now they're finding out, as we talked in the video, and I'm not gonna repeat myself here, that the Patriot system didn't perform to its promises, let alone the cost, $1 billion system. So the Saudis are going with the Russians' Abakar, and Abakar is about half a billion dollar, and it does exactly what they need it for.
Better and cheaper.
Yeah. So that's
what can you say?
So that means one thing, and one thing you guys can think about, or maybe we save the question for later. I have a question for you that I hope I won't forget. Remind me, Russ.
Okay.
For Russia. Yeah.
Every one of these stories is so important.
Yeah.
And there's such a big story behind it. Lebanon has a government at last.
After 13 months, that country was going, because the currency was devaluing so fast, so down, that basically the country will be on the verge of bankruptcy. And the problem with that, when you have social unrest, we all know what it means.
Do we ever?
But at the same time, what a lot of people in the West do not know, what they do not know, is that China was willing to help build the infrastructure in Lebanon, but the West prevented that from happening. So they convinced the government in Lebanon not to take those projects on from China. So you can just see behind the scenes what's going on with all that. So, but
Lebanon
anyway,
has its own tragedy because it used to be the resort spot of the region.
Well, Beirut used to be called the Paris of the Middle East. So, but at least they have a government, so they're going to be moving forward with that.
Well, we've saved the best for last.
All right, what is that?
Australia has just purchased nuclear subs from the United States and canceled its contracts with France. The ramifications of this one.
Yeah, it's not a laughing matter, but we're gonna drill into this because it's a very, very important, and we wanted to share our perspective with you guys so you'll have a better understanding of the big picture. This is not about just nuclear submarines. It goes beyond what you can even imagine. So, and we're gonna drill into this. So, well, of course, when you think about Australia right now, you think about the economic downturn they are under, given the tensions with China, of course.
Right. As we've said over and over again now, China was a major trading partner with Australia, and 29 years of economic growth mirroring what went on in China. And they've just cut their own throat.
Yeah, it's the bad policies. Like we said last time, that quote, stupid policies can lead to some consequences, and that's exactly where they are at.
Yes.
But the problem is not only the economic or the nuclear submarine deal. The problem is also the lockdown that exists and the surveillance that now the government is conducting on the Australians.
What a mistake well, I don't want to step into too much value judgment here, but I can't help it. What a mistake it was to take all the firearms away from the Australian people.
Yeah, well, they gave up their weapons, That's one thing you don't want to do. I remember a conversation I had way back a couple of years ago in Europe with someone, and he just came up in a conversation. I said, and he said to me, well, I hope you Americans do not give up your weapons. And I said, well, that's why we have the Second Amendment.
Right.
And the government better think twice before our government better think twice about thinking of coming over to our homes and take our weapons. So that ain't gonna happen. But that is the issue that happened in Australia, and I will provide you guys a link where that information is, which was about 12 months ago. when the government decided to disarm Australian citizens. So you can just see why now with this surveillance that they are doing.
Oh, yeah.
Because by the way, just to give you an idea of what type of surveillance we're talking about here, we're talking about government accessing your devices and see what you post on a social media platforms. That's a form of electronic surveillance anyway.
Oh, yeah.
And if you are to think of Australia as a democratic society, where is democracy into all this? And that becomes the question: is democracy nothing but a consumption of ink? Which to me, that's what it looks like. When you start censoring individuals, it is your right to express your frustration with the government, because that's how it's supposed to be.
Right.
Regardless of whatever system you're in, that should be allowed to a degree. But when you have a government coming in claiming to be a democratic and yet conducting this surveillance stuff on people, locking them down completely, I mean, you are in your own prison.
Great United Kingdom, United States, and Australia condemn China for doing that exact thing.
Yeah, and now
we have 3 surveillance societies that are hypocritical in this.
Yeah.
I mean, we're so under surveillance here in the United States, and Great Britain must even lead the world on it.
Well, it does, without going into much detail.
Yeah, we don't want to go there. That's not the show today.
Well, this is where that idea of our membership on the website, where we're going to have, because it will be on a separate platform altogether. So we'll be able to talk. And I got some stories to share with you guys. But speaking of the 3, United Kingdom, United States, and Australia, they just agreed, signed a deal as far as the UK and the US supplying Australia with the nuclear technology regarding submarines. Oh my gosh, this is like a geopolitical nightmare. That's how I would qualify it. In my academic studies and so forth, which, by the way, my background is in international security. This one falls within the realm of the international security aspect. Because here is the argument, Ross, that President Biden and Boris Johnson, and Morrison, all of them make one specific statement. It says, to further, and I quote, to further stability in the region.
I sort of think they just shot a boomerang arrow and are going to get something else instead of stability. They're going to get major instability.
Instability, indeed. Because here's the thing, guys, what you guys need to know. Regarding the nuclear, we're not going into the specifics of the submarines and the characteristics and all that stuff. We have some info I will share with you. But what I want you guys to know is that there are only 6 countries in the world that have the nuclear submarine technology. And you got the United States, Russia, United Kingdom, France, China, and yes, India. India has that. India has about 3 submarines that they are operating. And I got some information for you guys, and I will share it with you. I'll have all this stuff for you. So, for example, the United States has about 54 total submarines.
Nuclear subs?
No. All of
total
it's different.
submarines.
Yeah.
Okay.
The United States has what we call the Los Angeles, LA, the Sea Wolf, and the Virginia class. Those are fast attack nuclear submarines. Then we have the 14 Ohio class ballistic missile. So Russia has about 4 Borai, call them Borai. 1 is called Typhoon, and 9 Delta ballistic missile submarines. In addition, Russians have 2 called Yesen. I hope I pronounce it correctly. 2 Sierra, and they have 4 Akula and 3 Victor class fast attack submarines. UK has about 4 Vanguard ballistic missiles and 4 Astute class. France has about 4 Triumph, what we call Triumph. Those are class ballistic missiles. 4 Rubies, and 1 Barracuda. China has about 6 Jan. They'll pronounce it Jan, G-I-N. Jin class ballistic. They have 3 Han and 6 Shang class. And India has 2 Arihant class ballistic missiles and 1 Akula. So we wanted to highlight to you because of the sensitivity of the technology itself. So the United States and the UK decided, how about if we help Australia develop a nuclear submarine?
Pardon me, it isn't funny, but let's help them go into a major recession.
You're right. Given the economic conditions in Australia,
Right.
If I were an Aussie, I will be asking the questions. Do we want to spend our money on building a nuclear? Because they're going to build about 8 to 12.
And we're looking at 50 billion euros plus.
That was the deal they had with France, and this is why France now is livid, because basically what Australia did after signing the paper, the contract with France, they're saying no, we're gonna now do it with the Americans. Well, if you are to talk business setting, once you sign a contract, you're obligated.
Yeah.
But the Americans went behind France's back. And this is why France is. I was talking to some members of my family that happen to live in France, and they just couldn't believe the hypocrisy of the United States. They always say, why the United States is taking away our contract? Because that's basically what we did.
Yeah.
They signed the deal, 50 billion euros into that. That means a lot of economy for France. And France was about to provide them with the diesel submarines, because that technology wasn't supposed to be shared.
Right.
We decided to do that. As a matter of fact, the only country that we shared the nuclear technology with, guess who?
Great Britain.
That's it.
Yep.
That's about it. And all of a sudden, you are dumping all that agreement, the business agreement you did with that Australia did with France, because the U.S. says so.
Something that isn't apparent is how much ramp up the French did to start producing those submarines.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars worth of getting ready to produce these things.
Exactly.
And that's all gone now.
Yeah. And now becomes the question, guys, just for, as we discuss this one, becomes the big question of the geopolitical ramifications of something like this. Because here is one thing, the characteristic about the nuclear submarines is they can go undetected. So, that means we all know, it's not a secret, we all know what was the purpose of these submarines.
Right.
Is to counter China. That's the bottom line to it. Both the three leaders, UK, US, and Australia, didn't have the guts to come forward and say it. Yeah, because that's what it was.
Right.
All they did this, press conference, whatever, highlighting, to further stability. When in reality, you are the one need to counter China, because that's exactly what it is.
And it's totally predictable that China's going to react very negatively to this.
They did.
And of course, they did.
They did indeed.
Wow.
Actually, this morning, China now labels Australia as the, what's the word I'm looking for? Not the arch enemy.
An adversary.
An adversary. Thank you. So usually that's a strong language in a diplomatic setting. That's a very strong language, and rightly so.
I was going to say, and who can blame them?
Yeah, because we are moving. My big concern, and I've been sort of thinking about this for quite a while, Ross. My big concern now is that we are paving the way for the reemergence of the Cold War mentality.
And the Chinese are saying that out loud in words. You are paving the way for another Cold War, another arms race, and the waste of resources that goes into that.
Yeah.
Unnecessary. But here it is.
Yeah, because I will not be surprised that China is going to now have to develop some countermeasures to that. They do have the nuclear submarines in their fleet, but I'm sure they're gonna either, if I have to, it's not a laughing matter, literally, it's not, because it's very concerning. But China will have no choice but to arm now those submarines with some serious missiles.
Oh yeah,
those are it was not the right move politically, geopolitically, from a security perspective. You are creating tensions rather than reducing tensions. Because how do you think the country is going to feel when all of a sudden you are building bases close by, you are developing this nuclear technology underwater? What do you expect?
The question that always comes up for me is, did Australia really feel so threatened militarily by China? And all the information I have is they did not have to feel threatened by China. They had a great trade relationship, and China doesn't seem to want to expand into new territory.
Yeah, and those issues of the West claiming this South China Sea. Yes, there are issues there. Nobody's denying that, But at the same time, you look at the closeness between Philippines geographically between Philippines and China. They are working out those deals, those disagreements. China's working out with those countries, but there's no language of I'm going to expand my fleets, or I'm going to build this, or I'm going to build that, because they all know what it means. If there is one miscalculation, Ross, that's all it's going to take. Somebody pulling the trigger by mistake.
Catastrophe beyond imagination.
And their argument will be also from the Western perspective is has to do with Taiwan.
No.
I mean, come on, guys. We got to be realistic here. How far can you push that envelope of the Taiwan issue? China's going to take over Taiwan one way or another, because they want to do it the right, in a peaceful way, in a manner that will be beneficial to everybody. But at the same time, if the West dictating the rules, I don't think so China's going to allow it.
And as our friend Cyrus Jensen said, there are any number of Taiwanese people that are happy to be part of China.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more complicated than you would ever think if you just listen to the media. But that's beside the point. Right now, we're talking about the submarines and the impact.
And there is another issue that I was thinking about yesterday. I read something about it was a research, believe it or not, it was a research conducted within 48 hours. As far as an analysis, I won't call it an in-depth research. But one of it has to do with where Europe now stands vis-a-vis the US. Because remember, Angela Merkel is leaving.
Yes.
She went to Paris yesterday,
yes,
as a matter of fact. And France, they felt betrayed by the Americans. And that begged the question. Even NATO makes you wonder now.
Yes.
Because they all say, no, NATO will support this. But this decision of the three countries, the US, the UK, and Australia, was done without a consent of NATO. Yeah, that makes me wonder personally, could this become the beginning of the end for NATO?
When you look at how France is felt betrayed and Angela Merkel leaving, this really could be the end.
Yeah, and maybe it is time.
The United States can't be, Europe can't be blind to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
They can't be blind to 50 billion euros lost by France. They can't be blind to warmongering from the United States, Great Britain, and Australia. So they're going, okay, we need to take care of ourselves. And there's a big push for that anyway.
Exactly. And we Americans, let alone some of us, have no idea how much money we give into NATO. As a matter of fact, we Americans take care of the budget of NATO. Why should I give my tax money to NATO?
Why does NATO even exist today?
Yeah.
The Soviet Union's gone.
Yeah, Europe can defend itself. They're big boys. They can form a defense alliance among some countries there. I mean, why do we have to be there? Because this and this is where this deal it demonstrates now that indeed the countries that have been saying, yeah, maybe the U.S. is thinking about another conflict. Remember when I said last time? I said, I bet you, because I was looking at the camera, but I was thinking, the reason I was thinking is, what could it be the hawks in Washington are thinking about right now? Where should we have the next conflict?
Well, we know for sure. It's got to be China.
That's what it was, what was running through my mind. And the concern now is with this development of this nuclear submarines, things are not going to settle well. As a matter of fact, even the former the Prime Minister of Australia, not Rudd, the one before him, I forgot his name, he even came out flat out. He said, this is wrong. This is wrong of the Morrison government to do what it do. Because you got farmers, you got businesses, they are suffering.
They've lost their market.
Yeah. Well, one of our viewers, he was kind enough to, and thank you if you are listening here. He was kind enough to share with us that his sister lives in Australia, and she noticed the difference now where the commodities are, where everything is. I mean, never expected it, and you know, those people are on the ground. They are seeing the reality.
Yes.
And yet the government, Australian government, is lying about, no, the economy is doing great. It's going to go beyond expectations in second quarter or third quarter, which is a lie.
We take a look at how much businesses lost with China alone, and you can say, that has to be a lie.
Yeah. And now they are redirecting resources that needs to be devoted to the economy because...
To a bunch of submarines.
Yeah, well, because the U.S. is going to have to be paid for that anyway.
Oh.
I mean, do you think, if you guys think that the U.S. doing this out of favor to Australia, you're mistaken.
Think again.
Yeah, no, there's no free lunch, shall we say? And to me, for me, and I speak for myself here, is the geopolitical ramifications of this deal. You know, as a matter of fact, our guest tomorrow, without naming names here, he is one of the specialists when it comes down to the geopolitical landscape, and I intend to ask him these particular questions because we need to have a different perspective and understand they're really the ramifications of something, because this one, it's going to go beyond the borders of South China Sea or Australia or whatever. You know, that has a major ramifications. And if we are, and this is a big if we are, and it looks to me like we are, if we are moving into the Cold War mentality, we all know what comes with it, the arms race. And where that's going to lead to, you know. And here is the thing that I was even thinking one time, what would happen hypothetically if the U.S. keeps pushing this direction, and all of a sudden Russia and China decided to get together and sell arms together to other countries?
You know, this makes the situation so vulnerable. You remember the Gulf of Tonkin incident?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, that was supposedly the initiation of the war that the United States had with Vietnam. As it turns out, it wasn't an incident at all. It didn't really happen. It was created so the United States could pump the war machine into Vietnam. And I just, since that event, I've watched the United States do that over and over and over again. Mass destruction. Weapons of mass destruction. Oh, let's go into Iraq and let's. Yeah. And you know, that kind of event could happen in the South China Sea over either a made-up event or some small event that triggers a massive response, and the tragedy that would come after that.
Something like that. And that's exactly right. Most Americans, you know, some of us, not all, I shall not generalize, but most of us Americans do not understand that this doctrine of the conflict was established back in 1953. You know?
Oh, yes.
And the decision back then was, you know, the U.S. does not have to win wars. The U.S. has only to get involved in conflict, one after another. And you go back in history in 1953, starting from there, you get, what did we have in the 50s?
The Korean War.
The 60s.
Vietnam.
70s with the oil Iraq stuff. And then Iraq 1, Iraq 2, Afghanistan, and now China. You can just see the pattern here, you know. And when will Americans wake up to the reality that, you know, why our tax money is used on these damn weapons? You know, pardon my language. I usually don't speak like that. But at the same time, it's becoming frustrating.
You know, thanks to the internet, more and more people that I talk to in my social life are bringing these topics up spontaneously and saying, this has to stop. They're actually starting to get informed. Hooray.
Yeah, and that's how it's supposed to be, because the ramification of this deal that US, Australia, and the United Kingdom have signed regarding the nuclear submarines will change things upside down. Yeah. Not for the good. Not for the good, that's for sure. And even though, by the way, Australia is saying, no, we're not interested in nuclear weapons, which is true. It is true. Australia has never been advocating for nuclear weapons. But usually when you got a nuclear submarines, that's usually the start, because once you share the nuclear technology, this is the reason why we did not want to share the technology. As a matter of fact, with the Saudi Arabia. Saudi
Yeah.
Arabia was asking the U.S. and believe it or not, some companies in the U.S. were given the green light to go ahead and share the basic information. I mean, can you imagine the Saudis with a nuclear weapon?
I can barely imagine.
Yeah, it's not a
the number
laughing
of
matter.
people that would now be dead.
It's not a laughing matter. So, but this is where the issue is. You know, you start with the basic like this, then who's to say Australia will? Even though they are claiming they are not interested in the nuclear weapons, and the same for ASEAN. But ASEAN countries now, they are, you know, concerned
With good reason.
Yeah, because now they're seeing this tit for tat between the US and China. And that was the reason why Xi, when he was talking to President Biden, he said, maybe we need to calm down first before we meet. You can't just meet under this kind of circumstances. So that's usually where the issue is. So the idea of even Britain pushing for this when they have their own economic mess in England, you know, most of the Brits are not satisfied with the government, the way it's performing. You know, it would be fair to say, and again, this is my opinion, guys, it would be fair to say that the Western hegemony is on its last leg. You know, this usually when you start to go after creating conflict, that means you run out of policies. You have nothing good to offer anymore. And you are left with that option of, well, we better just create conflicts so we can sell more weapons and all that. So, but
those in power
yeah,
take care of themselves to the detriment of the entire society.
yeah,
And that's what we're seeing happen. We've seen it happen. I mean, if historically you look at a lot of other cultures, and it's been the same pattern.
exactly. Well, even for us Americans, if you look at back the history of America, how we started and who was controlling the process.
Right.
I mean, you look at it, you ask Americans, you know, who's been in charge of the political process in America? You know, you got only two parties, Republicans and Democrats. That's
Right.
about it. You know, in a democracy, what do you supposed to have? You're supposed to have choices. Right?
Exactly.
You know, you can't have, I always visualize this as us citizens, as a football. And you got a quarterback on one end, the Republican, and you got a quarterback on the other end, the Democrat. And one of them threw the ball to the other. Either you threw it every 4 years or you threw it every 8 years. You know, but till
Amazing how that happens.
yeah, but till we wake up, we Americans wake up and realize where things are going. You know, and that is the reason for why we're doing what we're doing. To me, is the idea of you have this knowledge, what you gonna do with it? If you couldn't share and help people understand the truth and reality for where things are, then your knowledge is useless.
Yes.
You become useless. And that was just to share with you guys, this is a personal thing. So I don't usually talk about my personal life. I'm a private guy, but I'll share this with you. The day I got my PhD, when my name was called in on stage, I was walking. You know what I was thinking about? Do you think I would be excited and yeah, the PhD is over, the hard work, whatever? All that didn't matter to me. What mattered, one thing. Am I going to be part of the problem or am I going to be part of the solution as I'm walking the stage?
It's the right question to ask and answer.
Yeah. It's because it became clear to me that, you know, you get a PhD doesn't mean you're just starting.
Right.
That knowledge never ends with a degree, you know. Now becomes your responsibility towards other individuals who might not have a PhD. Because PhD doesn't define, you know, what is the difference between somebody who has PhD and one who does not? Is the one that does not have a PhD less intelligence?
No.
No, it tells you one thing and one thing only. That person with a PhD, maybe he or she has the ability to see a project through till the end.
Oh, that's a good distinction.
Yeah, that's all it is. You know, somebody without a PhD. I had a conversation with individuals, they don't have much education, and they make perfect sense.
I've had any number of those conversations as well.
As far as I never introduce myself. Oh, I'm Dr. So-and-so. I'm just David. That's it. You know, but on a bigger picture, you start to say to yourself, you know, if I have this knowledge, you know, I better share it with people for them to wake up. This is the reason we thought about it as a joke. As far as 70 million subscribers,
right?
It is not a joke. It is not a joke to us anymore. It's because we want people not only in the United States, but around the world to wake up and see the reality for what it is. Because things have to change for us to live in peace. We can't be going this way.
And that is really the theme. You know, we keep saying stay informed. Well, for what reason? You get to vote, among other things. You get to invite other people to think through issues based on, hopefully you get accurate information from us and from a number of other sources.
And there are great people out there, Ross.
Oh, there
there
are a lot of
are
them.
great people out there that they share their knowledge, they share their information to the best of their abilities. I'm one of them that I follow those people. It's because they have something to say. And I learn from them. I learn from you guys. I'm sure Ross does.
Oh, some of the things you've shared with us have been just wonderfully useful in terms of the information that you have that I personally did not have and didn't have access to. But you sent it to us and we read it.
Yeah. Of course, once in a while, we'll have some idiot, pardon my language, put in some comments that, you know, they make no sense whatsoever. I don't get upset for me. You know, I got a thick skin. I won't worry about that. But it bothers me and upsets me because it's an insult to our viewers.
You know, we've been getting fewer and fewer of those.
I know, but you still run to some. I mean, they're free to say whatever.
Yeah.
But make damn sense of your arguments rather than just spewing negative words for no content whatsoever. Because I had one, without naming names, I wouldn't want to embarrass the guy, but put some weird comment, and I sent him back and I said, you know, your argument doesn't make sense at all. But this is not about me, because you are insulting our viewers and wasting their time for them to read that argument. So if you got something nice to say and contribute to the conversation, welcome.
Yes.
If you got nothing to say, you better not.
It might be time to start answering questions.
Exactly. By the way, guys, like we always do, and you guys know the format and all that, please put a question before so we know it's a question, not a statement or something like that, and we go from there. So yeah, that is one of the things, Ross, that I've been, you know, just thinking in terms of how can we help? How can we assist in bringing knowledge to others for them to see issues from a different perspective, beside the media, beside well-established entities that have to, you know, sort of manage the message, whatever. We are not, because we're just basics. Look, guys, where we are. We are at home. That's it. Yeah, we don't have these fancy studios and all. We don't need that. That's how we are. So we feel comfortable. It's because we care about the content of the message itself.
Is that our first question coming up?
All right, let's see. The first question. Nick, good to see you, Nick. Yeah, they always send that. I didn't read it yet.
This is good.
So the question, what are your thoughts on General Mike Milley call to his China counterpart to assure there will not be any surprise attack during Donald Trump's tenure? That is a good question. As a matter of fact, Nick, we've been asked to do a video on it, and we're going to do that. I just have to confirm some information with some of my contacts in Washington to make sure. There are two arguments to that. One of them says, you know, he broke protocol. Why? Because, as you know, our system is set up. We have a president, and the president is also one of his titles. The president of the United States has about 5 titles. One of them is the commander-in-chief, which means what? Any military decision related to whatever has to go through him or her. That's the protocol. The Joint Chief of Staff usually is the senior officer in the U.S. military and is considered the highest ranking military officer who advises the President of the United States. That is one argument that was made, is that when Mike Milley, General Milley, rather, don't call him Mike, out of respect, General Milley made the call, he broke protocol with that. You suppose you, as a Joint Chief of Staff, to discuss it with the president, whether it would be okay. The argument that Mike Milley made, General Milley made, was that he cleared it with the Secretary of Defense. That is what I'm waiting on to confirm. The other side of the argument is that he did well by doing that to avoid a catastrophe with China.
Unprovoked, unnecessary catastrophe.
Yeah. So it's kind of both sides of the argument. So, and we are waiting, as I said, we are waiting on some confirmation, and we're gonna do a video on it and release that. So yes, it's coming out to the surface. It's been under the wrap for a while, like so many other things in Washington. It's known. They keep things under the rug, but stuff like this, it will have to come up. That was exactly like with the phone call between President Xi and President Biden.
Yeah.
Someone who was there as part of the call confirmed that indeed President Xi turned down the request by President Biden to meet during the G20 summit. So. All right, next question. Oh, TNT. We couldn't thank you enough, TNT. That was a sticker from TNT.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much, TNT. Did you know, Ross, TNT has been with us for a long time.
Thank you, TNT.
Yeah. And I still have, believe it or not, because I don't delete certain things, I still have his comments from way back, or her comments from way back. So thank you so much, TNT. The question is, that's a statement from TNT. Thank you, David and Ross, for your messaging for peace in the world. We do not hear this enough in the US. Much appreciated. You are most welcome. And that is exactly, TNT, why we're doing what we're doing. And because of a support like yours and all our viewers, that's why we are growing. As I said earlier, literally, we started as a joke with this 70 million, not anymore. We need to have that kind of base around the world because we need peace. You know, some idiot is gonna make a mistake that we all gonna pay for, and we don't need that. There is one life to be lived. One. We just passing through this life here. When, funny enough, guys, when we die, we don't die. We just go to a different dimension. But how we go is how we came. We came to this earth with nothing. We leave this earth with nothing. Why not live it in peace?
And live peacefully while we're here.
Thank you so much, TNT. Next question will be from KK. Thank you so much, KK, for your comments yesterday. I read his comment, or her, I can't tell. So, question. Do you see these AUKUS, they call them AUKUS, Australia, UK, and US, expanding and developing into Asia version of NATO in view of the US recent sidelining of NATO members in Afghanistan withdrawals and etc.? Oh my gosh, you hit the nail on the head, KK, because that was exactly the arguments in NATO, within NATO. Despite what you hear, and I checked on this, Ross, despite what you hear saying that, no, NATO was informed, even France was informed, which was not true. It was not true. But it's also, as I said earlier, the idea of, is this the beginning of the end for NATO? That's, to me, European. If I were in Europe, if I were advising European countries, well, who you can advise? They're mainly France and Germany. Those are Europe, basically.
Yeah.
So you're going to make a decision. Do you want to be under the security umbrella of the US, or you want to have your own and make your own decision?
Well, Afghanistan ought to give them a pretty convincing argument as to what to do.
Well, you will think.
You would think.
You would think.
You would think.
So that's why I think, it's NATO as a whole is toothless. That's almost the equivalency of UN. It's toothless. They can't do squat about things.
Yeah.
This is, to me, an opportunity for Europe to really stand up and see what it is made of. They're growing boys. They can make a damn decision and move on with what they need to do. But I don't see it happening. But on the other side of the argument is, could this pave the way for a small version of NATO in that part of the world? I don't see it happening because
it seems unlikely.
It's unlikely. The reason being is because you got ASEAN countries.
Right.
They don't want that. You got some countries also that they don't want to be involved in all this. And as a matter of fact, FYI, guys, for the phone call between President Xi and President Biden confirmed to President Xi the one China policy.
Really?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I looked at the transcript and it was. He confirmed that. It tells you what? U.S. is aware of that, China will react. I'm not surprised if that will happen. I hope it won't. I've been writing about it for the last 5, 6, 7 years, that it would be a matter of time. If ever Taiwan declare independence, China will react militarily. Or if the U.S. or any other Western entity intervene in the Taiwan, it's going to react militarily. So this could be a version of small NATO. No, I don't see it going on. This is nothing but also could be worked as a distraction for the Aussies, because Aussie people are not happy with their government. What a best way to do, always create destruction.
Oh, yeah.
Or this magnitude. Of course, it has military applications. But so the short answer is I don't see that happening as far as NATO version over there. Oh, don't you like this screen name?
Yeah, I do.
Unknown. Good to see you, Unknown. And the question is, do you think Australia has an ambition to becoming a colonizer country of world power in the future? Because I really cannot understand why they are buying weapons aside from being a yes man of the US.
Well, we've asked not the same question, but we said, why are they bothering?
You're right. But here is the thing, and I'm glad you asked this question, no. The idea of them, by the way, just to answer you first, no, I don't see them after that one, because they're under the umbrella of the US. But here is the thing that you need to know. If you are not part of that, if you are not in that part of the world, most of us in the West, no, I shall not generalize, of course. Most of us in the West do not understand that Australia does not want to be associated as an Asian country. Australia wants to be the white European. It's the truth.
Yeah, well, that's primarily the history and heritage.
You're right, Ross. You're right, but you are there in Asia.
Right.
Why aren't you affiliated with Asia? Because you're there. They don't want that. They don't want that association with Asia per se. So it's almost like, I wish I won't be here. Well, if you don't want to be here, get out.
Yeah.
Very simple. So that is where one of the challenge for Australia. But the idea of them becoming a weapon, no. They don't, and they won't go in that direction. The US will provide them that because they are, and I'm going to share this with you guys quickly here, because they are part of the Five Eyes. And we're going to talk when we do the video. We're going to do a video, by the way, about this in a different, from a different perspective. Australia is tasked with monitoring Southeast Asia. That's its role in the Five Eyes. Yeah. So this is why I don't see them doing anything. The US will manage that, but but when a war breaks out, US is not going to do anything about it. They're going to let Australia deal with it, like we saw in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
So. All right, next question. Homeversity, thank you so much for the super sticker. We truly, truly appreciate it. So it means a lot to us. So thank you so much for that. And so this is the idea of, they're going to have to think in terms of, where this is going.
Well, I think that however they're thinking about this, they're not paying attention to what the obvious consequences are going to be, and are starting to happen even as we speak. These consequences are showing up.
Yeah.
And the ugly consequences.
Well,
for Australia.
You're absolutely correct. And that's why when we do the video, Ross, we're going to talk about the psychological impact on the Australian people. So next question.
Ariel.
Well, here's Ariel. Good to see you, Ariel. And by the way, Ariel, your question about the guest we had, whether he or she was from Belgium, the answer is no. He's an American and was educated in Princeton, but he lives in Shanghai, or has been for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
So
very interesting.
Yeah.
Powerful guy.
You guys gonna enjoy once Elizabeth released the video for that next week. So you'll enjoy that. So question from Ariel. Do you think China will sell more weapons systems to Latin America and Africa to counter American containment? Well, that is a good question. That is a good question, Ariel. It's because, can you imagine China and Russia together will sell the weapon not only to Latin America and Africa, but also to the Middle East? You know, that will change the balance of power completely, because you will think in terms of what they're going to sell. They're not going to sell, of course, the advanced system, like in the case of Russia. They're not going to sell the S-500 missile system. In the case of China, they're not going to sell the DF-41. You know, they probably will sell DF-21, if I'm not mistaken, and DF-36, if I'm not mistaken. But yes, if they do that, oh, the U.S. will be very perturbed by it's not even that. It will be very, what's the word I'm looking for? Lost. They will be lost because, oh my gosh, China and Russia selling weapons to Africa and Latin America. And yeah, that could make a big difference. And I won't be surprised down the road if China or Russia or both could consider that. So that's a possibility. Next question from Boy, Ohio. Good to see you, and thanks for being here. Question: will Australia afford to keep subs up and running if their economy decline due to Chinese countermeasures?
That's a good
question. What a great question. This is where geoeconomics comes in.
Yes.
That is great questions. The question whether they will be able or not, I don't have an answer. What do you think, Ross? What do you think?
Well, I was surprised that they were able to come up with 50 billion euros. Their population is not that big. Yeah. And the cost of maintaining those things is going to be hellacious.
And the U.S. charges for stuff. Look at the Patriot system to
billions.
Yeah. Well, just to maintain it for update, they asked for $36 billion. So, yeah, it's hard to tell. I can't tell you. All I know is that you will be able to tell within the next 5 years as to the maintenance of that stuff, because just for you and for everybody else to know, when the U.S. or any other country sells weapon, usually they have to sell a package, and that package includes the maintenance and spare parts
and training,
of course.
Yes.
So whether they can afford it or not, well, given how their economy is going, I don't see that happening, because
I don't either. They're headed for a major recession.
Yeah, and that is why the government is lying to the Aussies, and shame on the government to be lying to them. Shame on them. And Australians is gonna make a decision comes 2022, because that's when the elections are coming. So,
and the economic impact ought to really be hitting them by that time.
Yeah,
with China drying up as a source.
Exactly. And now that China have declared Australia an adversary, you can just see that door for economic trade and all that is shut.
Yes,
it's shut. So Aussies will be shooting themselves in the foot with this program. So. All right, next one is who is that? Oh, Journey, thank you, Journey to the East. Thank you so much for your sticker, super sticker.
Yeah,
we truly appreciate it. It means a lot. We want you guys to know, all of us here, the team, we want you to know how much we appreciate your assistance. Doesn't matter what form it is, but we do appreciate it. So thank you so much, Journey. And the question is, how is you guys take on EU announcing another BRI counter strategy with World Gateway, just like another B3W, just talk to talk? Interesting. Well, here's the thing. We'll disclose it. Why not, Ross?
Go ahead.
The interview we just did with the individual who is an insider inside the BRI. And really, and we're going to release that next week. Somebody who is very aware. And he addressed this specific point as to why some in the West are spewing lies about that trap and this BRI that is nothing but a mechanism by which China can control other economies, which is not true.
He completely denounced all of it.
Yeah.
He gave us very hard evidence to support it.
He did have the evidence for it.
He had the evidence.
And we're going to disclose that stuff for you guys. So yeah, the EU is pushing through that, including Scandinavian countries, some of them, yeah. But the BRI is moving forward anyway. And more now that the world is realizing where things are going, especially after the fiasco of Afghanistan.
Yes.
And now this deal between US, UK, and Australia.
The timing for the United States warmongers couldn't be worse.
Worse, yeah. So, and this is what we said earlier at the beginning. Europe now has to make a decision for itself. They have to. They can't be just following like this forever. They have to make a decision. And this is when that leadership comes in, when it matters. So it would be interesting to see how Europe is going to move forward. Elodin Raw, thank you so much for being here. Question: has Brexit led this to happen? And will it mean any country can negotiate independent deals with other countries without approval from the EU? Not necessarily, because remember, the UK is not part of the EU.
Yeah, they withdrew.
Yeah, they withdrew from it. So that's why they could do whatever they want. But at the same time, you got countries like Scotland and Ireland said, sure, we don't want to be under the UK. We want to be under the EU. And it is about time for Scotland and Ireland to just completely cut off ties with the UK altogether. So the UK will be by itself and only has to either the US to trade with or some other entities if they ever want to. But as far as decisions, if you are a member of the EU, now it has to go through the EU channels. That's usually how it works for that one. So. And I don't see that happening anyway. Next question here. Oh, Beryakov, here you are. I was wondering where Beryakov is.
Yeah, where have you been?
Well, he or she mentioned to me yesterday that he would be in. So good to see you, Beryakov. Question: Yellen is about to visit China. What kind of begging agenda she is going to pull out, as U.S. is now running out of cash soon? Oh my God, that is a good one. Yes, indeed, she's planning on going, but the question will become is whether China is going to be very open with her as far as the conversations regarding the financial structure for the debt that the U.S. owe the Chinese. Because remember, our national debt, China by itself holds about $2 trillion.
How many?
2 trillion.
$2 trillion.
It was 1.4 a couple years ago. Went up to 1.7. The last stats that I looked at. So her trip to China, it might, and again, I could be wrong. Beryakov, but it might end up just nothing but a window dressing. Because look, we are reaching out to China. Look, we are trying, but the Chinese are, well, how can they talk to you when you are insulting them? When you are saying one thing on the TV and telling them another thing.
We'll see what level inside the Chinese government actually meets her with her. That ought to be very telling.
And that's an indication.
Yeah.
That's like now they always say, well, Wendy Sherman went to China, met with the Chinese officials. Wait. Yeah. She only met with number 5 in the foreign department.
Which tells the story.
Yeah. Yellen will be the same. But also because there is a concern as far as here in the U.S. where the monetary policies are going. As you may know, there is now a debate in Congress about a spending bill for $3.5 trillion. Where that money is going to come from, and Americans, I don't know what's going to take for them to wake up, to realize that the big portion of society is the one that is taxed the highest. It's till Americans gets informed, nothing is going to change. That's basically what it is. So it will be interesting, and we're going to follow up on it when she gets there, and we're going to do a video on it. So thank you for that question, Beryakov. Joseph Genesis, thank you so much, Joseph. We appreciate your super sticker here. So, hi, David. Hi, Ross. It's the current crop of hawkish politicians, media, and talk-back radio that is pushing anti-China agenda, pushed by ASPI, which I don't know why it exists. Couldn't agree more.
I couldn't agree
I
more
couldn't
either.
agree more. It's a hit the nail on the head. It's because it's the reality that Americans are being fed. You know, we all hear. I mean, you remember the story you shared, Ross, with some of your friends? They were telling you, we gotta be.
No, we're so afraid of China. We're afraid of. I said, what are you afraid of? We don't know, but we're afraid. Because the media is just loaded with these negative things about China that are unfounded or made up.
Yeah, and that is one of the reasons why, guys, just FYI for you to know, we are working on setting up a summit in a few months. It's going to be a major event, and we're going to address this. We called it China Summit because we want to put the dots on the letter with these issues, so for everybody around the world to know why there is this campaign of lies and why there is the targeting of a country that is just emerging. I just don't get it. And we decided to do the summit on it. And we're gonna, by the way, be inviting some really
big names.
They're gonna come to
and
this.
all the people we've talked to so far are more than interested.
Yeah, and we will keep you updated as we get closer to that, because there's a lot of preparation that goes into it.
Oh, huge!
And we will inform you. So how about Elizabeth? How about if we do one last question, and we can, because we're gonna have to, guys, go do some recording for next week and prepare the agenda for next week. So let's do one more question. We do, Russ? One more.
Let's do one more.
All right, let's do that. That's from Jack Robert. You remember that screen image? I like it. The Godfather. Thank you, Jack. Thank you for being here. So the question is, what is the chance of EU becoming strategically independent from the US? Or will they be like Australia, a battering hammer against Russia? Oh my goodness. What a great question.
What's the name of the pipeline that just got completed this week?
Nord Stream 2.
Nord Stream 2.
Yeah.
The last piece was put in place. Now we have massive amounts of natural gas coming into Europe. What does that tell you?
Yeah, and yet the US went ahead and wanted to bribe the Germans for not getting that one. Yeah, it's very hard to tell at this point. I'm starting, and this is my personal opinion, I'm starting to see signs of the tensions internally within Europe that could spills out into maybe it is time to start to reduce our dependency on the US. It's not going to happen overnight. I can guarantee you this. The reason being because we do have so many entanglements. We Americans have so many entanglements in Europe.
Yes.
That ain't going to happen quickly. It's going to take time for it to happen. But on the other hand, from a military perspective, I do believe, based on all the research that I conducted, the books that I wrote when I mentioned about Europe, it is time for Europe to have its own defense force independent from the US and end this NATO existence, because we Americans paying for it.
Yes.
Our tax dollars going to NATO. For what? What would I care about you sending troops to the doorsteps of Russia or Ukraine or whatever? Why do I need to pay for that?
Right.
If the Europeans want to do that, let them pay for it. So it's going to take time for that to happen, but just don't expect it anytime soon, and expect that the US will undermine that. They're not going to let it happen quickly. So. Any last thing, Ross, to share with our viewers before we say goodbye?
Great questions. Worthwhile content. We're so glad you could join us today.
And of course, guys, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter. It will literally help push our channel to the top, and also it allows for the conversation on the what's the other? There's so much to remember, but that's okay. On the Discord.
Yeah.
So if you got a chance to join the Discord. So, well, we want to thank you again for being here. We missed you last week. We look forward to next week. And as always, stay informed. Till next time. See you guys.